Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of the Dare to Share podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Itope Roberts, and today I have a wonderful guest with me, someone I've known for almost 4 decades now. We actually went to the same high school together, and I am really honored to have Morenike Awosika on the podcast today. On the Dare to Share podcast, we shared stories of trauma that has become triumphant for women. We come here to share unfiltered experiences with the aim of encouraging other people. We're not like miserable women just out to take our own toll on whoever has hurt us. No, we've gone way beyond that. We have healed, and we want people to learn from our experiences. And I'd like to now welcome Morenike, and you have the floor to introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Thank you very much, Doc. It's very, very nice. It's a pleasure being on your program. It's really an honor. My name is Morenike Awosika, and I am a domestic violence survivor. I came out of a domestic violence marriage about 7 years ago. And it might look like it's not been too long ago, but a lot has happened in the last 7 years. The Morenike of 7 years ago is not the Morenike of today. I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I'm smarter, I'm better. So much better than what I was before. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking about a very common phenomenon that we find in women within domestic violence situations, and that is the fear of leaving. And today we're focusing on something called power and control. We're going to kind of really delve into why women are afraid. What's that fear that grips them? They know they're not in a good place. They know the situation is toxic, but we find women still sitting there. So Morenike, why? Let's look at the different factors that make women stay.
So let me start with my own personal experience. So I was in a relationship for about 17 and a half years. At first, my first encounter in the relationship with violence was about 3 months after we married, where my ex-husband slapped me involuntarily on the bed while we were playing and frolicking. And I didn't understand why he slapped me, and I tried to get the answer, and he couldn't provide an answer. And then after a while, it became like he was angry about me asking the question, why was I slapped? What happened? I don't understand, and I just kept on giving myself all kinds of excuses about why I couldn't leave the relationship from the beginning. And it just spiraled. It started out being from that one slap on the bed to pushing and shoving, and then later on, as things, at one point in time, he lost his job and he really became even more insecure about himself. And the violence spiraled into more and more, became worse and worse each year. And I would just like people to know that it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So once you recognize it, you need to really nip it in the bud. So there are a lot of reasons why many women don't leave. It's either they're being intimidated, they're being emotionally abused, they're being isolated, they're being minimized, or there's even economic abuse. Then you have, male privilege, and you also have, using the children as a kind of like a bait so that you can't get out. I had a number of reasons why I didn't want to leave. My parents had a very bad marriage. My father was one of those, and I don't want to use the word Nigerian, one of those Nigerian fathers in the baby boomer generation that likes, philandering and women and stuff like that, even though he was, I loved my father a lot. And so I grew up in a very tumultuous marriage, a marriage that wasn't really a very happy one. And so I had made this vow to myself that I did not want a divorce ever. And that whatever decision, whoever I married, I would stick with them and I'll be faithful and I'll do whatever I had to do. And so I found myself, condoning a lot of things I shouldn't have condoned. And one day I met up with this pastor, a Trinidadian pastor, when I had had enough of it, and I had, a conversation with him. And he said to me, I'm going to introduce you to this lady in Texas. She deals with people who are in domestic violence relationships. She has advocated for a lot of people trying to get out of domestic violence relationships, and she's actually works very closely with the Houston department to help women come out. And so I got on the phone with her, and she started.
Sorry to interrupt. At this time, you lived in a different part of the States, if I'm right.
Yes, Maryland. Right. So I lived in Maryland.
You lived in Maryland, and there was this pastor in Houston.
Yes. No. So there's a pastor. There's a pastor in New York who introduced me to this advocate in Houston, right? Okay. And so me and the advocate started to talk. Her name is Tisha Jenkins Kwateng. She's actually someone I think you might even find very valuable in your program. And so we sat down on the phone, and she didn't ask me, why are you not leaving, or what's going on, or how many punches did you get yesterday. She didn't ask me all those things. She just wanted to know what my level of risk was. That was the first thing she talked about. And so we talked about what do you call it again? The power and control. This was the first time I was ever hearing about power and control. And so she took me through this whole wheel, and she was talking about using. She said, she said, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I need you to tell me what your level of risk, and I'll explain to you at the end. And I'm like, okay, what's that? She said, are you being intimidated? That's the first one. Is he making you afraid by using looks, actions, gestures? Is he smashing things? Is he destroying property? Is he abusing your pet? Or is he displaying a weapon? So that's all part of under the umbrella of intimidation. So that was the first thing. And of course, he fit that category, making me afraid with looks and stares. And he didn't fit everything in that category, but we were able to pick out some things. Then she went on talking about using emotional abuse. Does he put you down? Does he make you feel bad about yourself? Does he call you names? Does he make you think that you're crazy? Says one thing, you come up with something else, and then you say, no, that's not what I mean. And it's like, like this mind twisting, mind manipulation, playing mind games, humiliating you, making you feel guilty. I said, oh, absolutely. So
that's the emotional abuse.
Yeah, emotional abuse. So the first thing we're talking about is intimidation. Then we're now talking about emotional abuse. Then we talk about isolation.
Wow.
Controlling what you say, who you see, who you talk to, what you read, what you watch, where you go, limiting your outside involvement, especially with family, So using jealousy to justify actions. If I were to talk to a man on the phone, then I am having an affair. That kind of thing. So isolation. And then with my own case, we started out in New York, and we gravitated. There was some issue with him and the law. And so we had to leave New York and move to New Jersey. And then from New Jersey, we moved to Maryland, and we became farther and farther away from his family. He actually didn't want us to be around his family
as well. So it wasn't just isolating you from your family. Yeah. He also didn't want you in touch with his family.
His family. And
was there any reason? Did you now come to realize, was there something he was hiding?
The thing about it is that when it was transpiring, we did not sorry, my kids are bothering.
Okay.
Yeah. When it was transpiring, I did not see it that way. It was just happening. And even family that visited me, I had an aunt that used to visit every year. Oh, he was the best person around my aunt. Cooked for my aunt, took my aunt
Wow.
around, did shopping for my aunt, and everything. And even to the point where, at the end, when I broke up with him, at the end, my aunt couldn't believe me. She didn't believe me. She said, "No, it can't
Can
be
you
the same person.
imagine?
It can't be the same person. That's not true."
Wow.
After all,
Wow.
when I came, he used to help me type all my UN papers. He used to help me do
Wow.
all this. Yeah, because my aunt was, she has a PhD. She was a speaker at the UN every year and stuff like that.
Wow.
You know.
But Morenike, you and I know that this is a very common tactic of certain forms of people. They are
Yes.
the nicest when they're in touch with people
Yes.
outside of your home, but within the house with you, they're extremely different. It's
Yes.
like they wear a mask and they decide when they want to unmask and when they want to
Unmasked.
put their mask on.
Yes.
And sometimes these people are so cunning that they actually turn even your own people against you. I can't
Against
believe
you.
your own auntie
Yes.
saying no, it can't be the same person.
Yes, and I also lost friends along the way. There were people that were very close to me that came into my life, and he would stir up trouble between me and that person. And before I knew it, I'd lost that person. Something was, So I had a couple of friends that I lost, and I was actually able to reconnect with one recently, and I was very happy about doing that. So we talked about intimidation. We've talked
Yeah.
about emotional abuse,
Yeah.
and now we're talking about isolation. So
Isolation, which is
isolation.
all part of this power and control.
Yes. And then also you also get your head gets up so wrapped up that you don't actually want people to come to your house because you don't want people to see. So the isolation is not only him isolating you, but then you begin to actually isolate yourself because you don't want people to come in and see what is not real. What's that, that what is being
The
presented that is
show
not.
you put on, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I call it the SHIT show. You understand? Because you always find yourself putting up a show and making people think, oh, you're the happiest couple
Right.
ever.
Right.
Meanwhile, you're suffering,
Right.
you know.
So
So yeah.
you get fed up about that, and you don't really want to do that. The next one, which is actually I think the most, I would say it's one of the most popular ones, is the minimizing, denying, and blaming.
And blaming. Let's
Um,
talk about that. What
Finger
was that like for
pointing,
you?
gaslighting, finger pointing, making light of the abuse and not taking your concerns about it very seriously. Saying that the abuse didn't happen. Shifting
Denying it outright.
shifting the responsibility for the abusive behavior on the person, on the victim itself, saying that you caused it.
You are
You know,
too dramatic.
yes,
You are
that's
being
it.
too sensitive. Those are
That,
some of the words they use, isn't it? You are
yes,
being too sensitive. You are being dramatic. And
yeah,
sometimes you actually say it's always all about you. And there comes the mind game as well, isn't it? You now
yeah.
start, I don't know if that ever happened to you, where you actually step back and say, oh, maybe it's actually my fault.
My fault. Yeah.
Maybe there's actually something I'm not doing right. You know.
Hmm. So,
Can you think of any examples? Because maybe some of our audience may feel, what does that really mean? Any example that kind of comes to mind that you
so
feel
like
comfortable
there was a
sharing?
time that I actually sat down with him and I tried to kind of like reason out with him that, don't you think that there's a fundamental problem here, that this constant it's almost as if to say the rage that you have is not commensurate with the offense. It's
The
like the
stimuli, yeah.
rage the rage is a little bit above the offense, and he was like, oh, the way you're taking this thing is not the way other women, go through this and whatever and all that. The way you're taking this thing is not thing. And you also have to look at yourself and what is that you're doing that is causing this particular issue. So you feel like you're like going round and round in circles and you're not really arriving anywhere because this person has a mindset that you can't really go beyond. The truth about narcissists is that they don't have the capacity to love. And so you are there thinking that, okay, all right, I deserve to be loved. I deserve to have, this ideal marriage. And the truth about it is that they can't really love the way others love. And so
They
that's
can't
why,
really love at all. That's just
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Very unfortunate. They do not have the capacity to
capacity.
love.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. So So I've talked about using intimidation. I've talked about emotional abuse, using isolation,
Isolation.
minimizing, denying, and blaming. Okay, and then using economic abuse,
Let's talk about
preventing
that a
you
bit.
from getting or keeping a job, making you ask for money, giving you an allowance, taking your own money, not letting you know about or having access to family income. In my case, it was not wanting me to go to college at the rate that I was going to college. And I was like, if I stay home and I go to school part time, the money that I'll be working for is just going to be enough for daycare. So how am I going to move forward? And I actually had to put my foot down on that one. And I'm glad I did, because at the end of it, I had my degree, I had everything working for me. So I didn't, I was thinking about myself, just in case, just imagine if I was someone who had not graduated and and the marriage had broken up, how would I have been able to fend for these children?
For yourself. Because that
So
was economic power being
yes,
taken out
because
of you.
yes,
And if you really look at it, that might have been a tactic to actually keep you in the relationship,
that's
because
it.
he knew that if you went ahead, got a degree, had better income, then you are more
Right.
likely to survive on your own
Survive on
without
your own.
him.
Yes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I remember yearly we will get tax returns, because we used to
Of
do
course.
joint tax returns, and majority of the money would go to his people. Like majority would like, and then he would like send his father maybe like $600, and then my father would get 100, and I'm like, why is this? Why
All
is
the
this?
inequity.
And he was like, oh, your father is a attorney. He has money, and my father is not working. That kind of thing. So little things like that, not having access to my tax returns. It was even towards the end that I actually started putting my foot down. I need an allowance to buy some clothes and stuff, and I put my foot down and I would get a little bit. But for years, I would not have access to my tax returns, because when tax returns come, he already had his own plan what those tax
Money.
returns was going to go. And then towards the end, the very end, he actually walked away with a lot of money that we were actually saving for a house. And he had opened up a private account and put that money in there.
We're
So
not aware of this
yes,
account.
I wasn't aware of this account until towards the end. And then when I tried to get a judge to help me to get some of the money back, the judge said, well, the account is in his name. You will have to go to small claims court and get that money back. Money was about maybe $30,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So that's the other one. So we have talked about intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using economic abuse. Next one is using coercion and threats.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So threatening to ask, like asking you for a divorce, even when the divorce was not really a plan.
Wow. So he used that to threaten you that he
Definitely,
would leave
yes.
the marriage
Because he knew the vow that I had made about not wanting it, not getting divorced.
based on your childhood experiences and everything.
Exactly. So making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt you, threatening to leave you. Part of the coercion and threats thing is committing suicide, threatening to commit suicide. Some people he didn't do that, but there are some people that would threaten the victim and say, I'll kill myself if you
leave me.
if you leave me. Making you drop charges, making you do illegal things. So it's called coercion and threats. Using coercion and threats. So
How about male privilege? Because that's also part of it. And I think that's really a big thing in our society, as Nigerians. I know you are partially Nigerian and half Trinidadian, but male privilege, I think, is a real big deal, because in our culture, there's a lot of, people always say, I'll say this in Yoruba, foriti, that whenever you're in a relationship, every marriage has its own ups and downs. And even when women find themselves in really toxic relationships with this power and control, they still say, you know what, your husband is your head, you just have to manage, you just have to stay there. How did this manifest in your life and in your story?
Yes. So we have. Sorry, rephrase the question again. Go ahead.
I mean, we're talking about still the power and control cycle, looking at male privilege and
Yes.
the influence of male privilege in keeping women stuck in
Right.
toxic relationships,
So
looking at our cultural and maybe
yes,
even religious
I
beliefs
agree.
and stuff.
I'm going to give you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my therapy sessions after I left the relationship.
Yeah.
I had a fantastic therapist, and there was one question she kept on asking me. She said, I'm going to ask you this question every time you come, and I want you to give me an answer, and I'll tell you whether I think that answer is correct, is right or wrong. And I had said to her, she had said to me, "Why did you not leave?" And I'm going to answer your question based on that. Why did you not leave? And each time I would say, "Oh, I was afraid of, being alone. Oh, I was afraid of the money. Oh, the children needed a father." And she was like, "Nope, nope, nope." And each week when I went for the therapy sessions, she would ask me that question. And she said, so it got to a point after 6 months that I said, "Okay, I don't understand what you are trying to get out of me here." She said, "Oh, I was waiting for you to get to that point of that breaking point where you are tired of answering the question." I said, "Yes, I really want to know." She said, "Okay, I'm going to phrase this question in a different way." And I was like, what is it?" And she says, "If you were to put your spouse in 3 categories, I want you to choose one and only one. Would you say that he was wise, or that he was foolish, or that he was evil?" And she said, "I only want you to give me one answer." And I said to her, "Oh, a little bit of foolish, a little bit of evil." She said, You didn't give me one answer." I said, "I did." She said, "I'm telling you, you didn't give me one answer." And I said, "I did." And then she says, "No, you did not give me one answer. You said told me a little bit of wise, a little bit of foolish, a little bit of evil." I was like, I was shocked. And she says, "You know the reason why you gave me that answer?" And I was like, "What is that?" She says, "Because you grew up in a society where you have been brainwashed, where you have been taught that that when a man is hitting a woman, or even a woman is hitting a man, whatever it may be vice versa, but it was okay. And so therefore, when this man started inflicting physical harm on you, you did not deem it to be the worst situation ever." She said, "In America here," she says, "when a man puts his hand on a woman, or a woman puts her hand on a man, the police is called immediately. The law is brought into force. Back home in Nigeria, it's not always the case. And even sometimes when you tell the police even minimize you.
They do.
They minimize you, and they say, 'Oh, madam, blah, 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 blah,"
They will say,
So,
go home, go and
yeah,
settle. They will say, go and
yes,
settle.
yes,
Call
go
your
and settle,
family.
yes.
Let them settle
That's
it
it.
for you.
That's it. So, I would say that we have grown up in a society where it has become the norm, and the more we talk about it openly like this, I think the better for a lot of people. I'm actually beginning to feel as if the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha generation has become a little bit more aware.
They are, and very vocal about it too.
Than we were, and so I think when a community is very stringent on that and sees that thing as an evil. She said, "You never saw it as an evil thing. You never saw it as an evil." She said, "Even
But it was.
yeah, because the woman was a Christian counselor, and she said aside from you being a Christian, she said even non-Christians see it as evil. Non-Christians see it as evil. So the fact that you did not see it as evil, you didn't recognize that evil, means that and all that. So
There's some cultural background there, absolutely.
yeah,
And so, I mean, just in a nutshell, it's wrong for
yes,
any man to lay his hand
a hand
on a woman and
on
vice
woman.
versa. Let's call it what it is, evil. And that's just it. Because
Yeah,
people, we find ourselves sometimes making excuses as women that, he didn't mean to. He was having
right,
a bad day. He
right,
won't do it again. But we know that they do it again and again
yes,
and again. And usually it just escalates.
escalates.
A
Yes,
single slap now becomes a real good beating.
yes,
So yeah.
yeah,
Now,
and so uh, um, we've talked about all these things.
Using
in my,
children. We have not talked about children.
yes, the using children one came last. That came after my divorce. The using children, although he used to say some very derogatory things to the children as well. He said some things that he wasn't supposed to say almost towards the end. He started trying to, manipulate the children, but that came more towards the end. So when that lady, Tisha Jenkins Kwateng, had interviewed me, he fit 7 out of 8 on that power and control wheel.
Wow.
And the power and control is used 7 out of 8. So she was like, "You're high risk. You're high. If he's fitting 7 out of 8, then you are high risk." And then again, it came up for me. Remember, your first question was about why do women not leave? Why do women feel trapped? Right. So the last day when he was actually arrested, and attempting to how would I put it? Sorry, I'm trying to pull up something on my computer. No problem. And attempting to choke me and my children.
Choke you. Physically choke you.
Yes. He tried to choke me, and the children called the police.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and so the Maryland police came in, and I, like the lady you described, I was like, "Oh, don't arrest him. Just frazz him up a little bit. I've never really called the police."
Defending a man that could have killed you. Really, yes. I'm sorry to use that word.
Yeah.
Had it not been for your children that intervened, the cops came and you were still defending him.
Yes, I was still defending him. And again, this power and control wheel was pulled out. So I was shocked. And I was like,
by the cops.
They were like, we know you are saying all these things and you are saying we shouldn't arrest and whatever, and we should scare him a little, but we need to determine the level of risk.
Right.
And so they brought out this power and control wheel and they began to ask me questions again. And they was like, "Ma'am, you are very high risk." Exactly. So this was the breaking point for me, where I said, well, if that lady could, talk about this power and control wheel and, really go through the different categories of abuse and to know the levels, then, and the police is also telling me the same thing, then that means that this thing is really very real and it's serious. And that actually helped me because I'm a visual person. I'm also auditory as well, but I'm a visual person. And when I was able to see it and understand it, and I was like, I'm going through all this. I didn't realize I was going through all this, and then, that's when that was my breaking point. And
that was your breaking point.
And they actually inspected my body and found a mark. And when they found the mark, then that was when the arrest took place. And I didn't even realize that my adrenaline was pumping so high that I didn't realize that I actually had I had that mark on my body. And so I really would like, a lot of women and men, because there are men that go through this as well, to understand the different facets of abuse, using coercion and threats, using intimidation, using emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing, denying and blaming, using children, using male privilege, using economic abuse. If you are in any of these things, I am appealing to you to assess your level of risk. Yeah. Assess your level of risk, because the higher you are on this continuum, the
higher the risk of harm to you.
Yeah, the higher the risk of death. You might even end up, down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a friend who, in Trinidad and Tobago, she was a presenter. She died about 2 years before I left my own, and she was also my wake-up call. She had told the guy she was leaving. That's one thing. When you are leaving a victimizer like that, you don't tell them you're leaving, because then they will have their own plan B. And she had told him that she was leaving, and he locked the door, stabbed her multiply, and set her bed on fire.
Oh my gosh, that's a violent person.
Yes, yeah, and he ended up in a psychiatric hospital. Although people think that he's pretending and trying to avoid jail, but at the same time, I don't think she understood. If she had gotten a hold of this wheel, then she would have understood better. Absolutely. That what her level of risk was. So that's what I happen when I minister to people, when I talk to people about domestic violence. This is where I zero in on, because this is what made sense to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So sorry about your friend. May her soul rest in peace.
Yeah.
It's really sad, and these are the people we know. Can you imagine the countless women and men that we do not know that stay in situations this toxic and really refuse or can't even think about putting a name to what they're going through? And as part of this presentation, of this podcast, I'm actually going to share a copy of the Power and Control
Oh,
Wheel
Will.
so that
Yes.
people can actually look at it. And it's not about, oh, he had a bad day today, oh, maybe he's in a bad mood, oh, maybe because he lost his job. No, you're actually looking at a scientific and tested tool to screen. It's just like when you go for your mammograms for breast
Right.
cancer. Some
Right.
people
Right.
are already in a metastatic form of domestic violence. I believe that this will would help them actually put a name and a grade to what they're going through. So we're
What
going
the
to
best was.
definitely be sharing it. And I'm glad that it was a wake up call for you and you
Yes.
had seen two people, the counselor or the therapist, as well as the policeman,
Yes.
use this tool to assess your risk. And as you
Yes.
said, it was a wake up call for you.
Yes, it was a wake up call for me, and I pray that it will be a wake up call for many women and men across the board to know that you don't have to stay in that relationship if you are being inflicted. What's the use of staying in a relationship that's not happy? What's the use of staying in a relationship that your harm is being inflicted and then you forgive this person? The person knows exactly what they're doing,
Yeah.
and so you have to save yourself and love yourself and get out.
Fantastic. And get out. And just as we round up, Morenike, how has life been since you
Oh,
made that decision to
oh
leave?
yes, yes. Life
Because
has
sometimes
been
women are just so scared, like what lies across, what
yes,
this might actually be better for me. Let me foriti, like the Yorubas would say,
yes,
back home. How
yes.
has life been?
In that relationship, I had lost myself. Today, I have found myself.
Wow.
I'm a much stronger, much better, much wiser person. I now know my capacity, the things that I can do, the things that I can't do. I have a better relationship with my children. I'm able to navigate them, properly and in the right direction. I'm able to make decisions for myself. And I stopped. One of the things that I stopped doing, I stopped blaming myself because there's sometimes you have self blame about why you stayed so long, and why and so I always say to myself, I did what was best in that situation at the
Yeah.
time, but now I know better. Now
Now
I know
you
better.
know better.
Now I'm in a better place.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, Morenike, I think we reconnected a few years ago, I think shortly after my own separation, divorce as well.
Yes,
And we had so much to talk about. And, I can say from even just observing, talking to
yes,
you, looking at the things you're doing, that this woman is a happier person.
yes,
This woman
yes,
is actually living life. I see a woman that has rediscovered or that is rediscovering herself. Because,
yes,
like you said, abuse takes some people just think it's the scar, it's the slap, it's the hitting. It's a lot more than that. It's the loss of who you are.
oh,
And
yes,
oftentimes you don't even know that you've lost yourself completely until you come out and you just start seeing the new you. All
yes.
those things you've suppressed, all in the name of saving a relationship, all
Relationship,
in the
yes,
name of love, all in the name of I have to be a good Christian, all
yes,
in the name of, oh, this is about my vows. No,
right.
you're actually doing yourself so much harm that you actually don't discover until you leave. And
Yes,
I
in fact,
see that in you. I see you having fun. I see you dancing. I see you just, enjoying yourself. And it's really unfortunate that a lot of women, as you said for your friend that eventually died in Trinidad and Tobago, lose their lives,
yes,
lose themselves, lose their careers,
yes.
lose so many things because they fail to put a name to what they're going through,
What they're going
which
through.
which is abuse.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
Um,
so much for coming. And any final words as we round up, Morenike?
my final words, woman or man, whoever you are, wherever you may be, I am appealing to you if you're going through a violent relationship, whether it be emotional or physical or mental. You deserve better than you're getting. You have to love yourself, because when you love yourself, then you can love your neighbor. Sometimes you try to just bring up all kinds of reasons to justify the reason for staying. But if you love yourself first, then you can get out. So I am appealing to you. Please come out of that relationship that is not doing you any good. You don't realize who you really are until you come out. And then when you do come out, you realize how much power, how much favor, what capacities you have, and what skills you have, and how you can be that better you. So that's what I will encourage any man or woman to do.
Thank you so much for your time. And as we round up, I'm just going to quickly summarize the power and control wheel. So as a man or woman, you may Google this. I would add it to the podcast. But do you find yourself in a relationship where intimidation is being used, where emotional abuse is being used, where isolation is being manifested, where you are being minimized, where things happen and they're denied, and where you are the one to blame all the time? Do you find your children being used as weapons against you? Do you find a man or woman using privileges and saying, look, I'm the man here, my word is final? Do you find yourself being economically abused? Do you find yourself being coerced or being threatened? You may be at high risk of abuse. Yes. And please leave, Leave, so Leave. You can live, Live. I want to really thank you, Morenike, for joining us, and big thank you to our audience for listening to this podcast. Please share with someone, and if you have a story to share, please email daretosharepod@gmail.com. Morenike, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye
now. Take care.